Okay.
There you go.
All right. Hopefully we're all set with the technical stuff because I'm in a lot of trouble if we're not. So as I said, we'll call it to order. It's now 6:12. And I sent out an email today with 2 meeting minutes drafts. Did everybody get that? And if you had a chance to look at that?
Glenn,
Yes,
yes.
I did.
Yes, you got it.
Yeah,
Okay. So
The first one I can't approve, I can't vote on because I wasn't there, but the second one I'll make a motion.
all right. So let's do the first one, September 1st. I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes as printed. Is there a second?
Second,
Is that you, Sarah?
yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, we have to do roll call votes. So Bill Johnson, yes. Glenn Hathaway,
Glenn Hathaway, yes.
Rebecca Merrill,
She doesn't vote.
Yes. I don't think I can vote, but I'll
sorry,
vote yes.
sorry. Sarah,
Yes,
Waltz wasn't here. Dave
I'm
Perry,
abstain.
Dave?
yes,
Okay, perfect. Next will be the minutes of the meeting on September 22nd, and Walt has already made a motion to do that. Is there a second?
Glenn Hathaway, second.
Okay, again, I'll call the roll. Bill Johnson, yes. Glenn Hathaway,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes,
Walt,
Yes,
Dave.
yes,
Okay, perfect. Got those out of the way. Thank you. Under new business, there's 2 things that I wanted to bring up. The first one is we got some good news from the Attorney General's office that the warrant articles that were held up because we didn't get the meeting posted correctly, Articles 24 and 26 have now been approved by the Attorney General's office. So everything's wrapped up there. We got that letter from the Attorney General, so that's good. So I'm going to reach out to Claudia, General Code, and see where we are now that this is officially wrapped up, and find out what's going on with the timeline and when we can expect to get books and things like that, because we have to make that conversion over to the new reorganization that we have there. So that's a good thing there. The other thing I wanted to talk about briefly under new business, well, it's actually a little bit of old business. We talked about generating a timeline for the annual town meeting. Do we want to talk about that tonight and firm that up? Or do you want to come back to that at a later date?
don't we now not have anything on the agenda for this? Oh, for the annual town meeting as opposed to the fall one?
Right, so
Okay.
basically, town meeting has to be the second Tuesday in May. So that happens to be May 2nd, and I don't know. I'm sure Walt does all the posting deadlines and requirements and things like that. So I would just like us, and again, it doesn't have to be tonight, but in the not too distant future, I'd like us to have a firm timeline of what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. So we won't get behind and push up against those deadlines and take a chance on missing them.
yeah. You have to work backwards from the annual town meeting. And in very rough terms, I think we should have our public hearing in early March. And if we have our public hearing in early March, that will be plenty of time to get the warrant and get all the stuff in line for a May, for a first week in May meeting. So working backwards from that, you need at least, 14 days, full days, and you should allow yourself probably 3 weeks of posting it ahead of time. So you're looking at needing to have everything ready to go to a public hearing by mid-February.
Okay,
And so if from there, we can now say between now and mid-February, we need to get our drafts together. We need to get them reviewed internally. We need to, obviously we'll want town council to look at our drafts as well. We'll want E-code or general code to give us our advice on them, all that kind of stuff. So.
okay, perfect. That's good enough for me then. I've got that down for mid-February to have all materials ready. So perfect. Rebecca, I sent you a new invitation today for general code. Did you get that?
Yes, I didn't use the new invitation. I was still using the old one, but I'll go look at it.
No, I just didn't know because you couldn't access, the only thing you could see was the Ashburnham code. And you should be able to access everybody's code. So I just sent you a new invitation. If not, there may be a different password that you need, but I can get that to you as well.
I actually tried to look at other people's code today or yesterday, and I thought I knew the password and username for seeing other towns, but I couldn't get into it either.
So it's really, really complicated. It's Ashburnham and Ashburnham.
That's what I tried and I couldn't get in.
Didn't go?
Yeah, so I did remember correctly, but it still didn't
Okay.
work.
All right, then I may have to reach out to this lady, Jenny Sanders. Actually, you know what I think I'll do is I'm going to give you her contact information, and she's responsible for all this kind of stuff. And you just reach out to her directly instead of using me as a conduit, because I'll just slow the process down. So, all right, I'll make sure that she reaches out to Rebecca and Sarah to see if we can get you squared away on that. Okay, next up is, we basically have it as continued discussion on possible bylaw changes. Rebecca sent us a bunch of stuff. Did everybody get a chance to open that up and look at it?
I'm sorry. Let me see. Maybe
So while everybody's looking at that, so here's the question for tonight. I had started putting together just a little simple Excel spreadsheet about some of the things that we had talked about, of potential priorities and things that we want to review. So do you think we're done with that process of people making suggestions for what we'd like to look at? Or should we go back and start reviewing all of our notes on zoning bylaws where we had, made comments and things like that, and potentially put all those things on the list? I'm not sure how you want to proceed with this.
So I've done drafts of almost everything that we talked about. I haven't given all of them to you because I want Sarah to kind of pre-edit before I show them to people. Draft edit 1, and then you guys are draft edit 2. But I think I've covered most of them except for the signs, because the signs is
Big.
it's big and it is horribly organized, and I'm considering just reorganizing the entire thing. While I'm on that subject, the change I'm thinking of making to signs is whoever wrote it just went into detail about every different type of sign, but I think it would be better to organize it in residential and commercial signs. And then
I wrote it.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's
I will
okay.
stop bashing it.
I've got really thick skin. There's nothing you're going to say that's going to tip me over, but just to give you some reference on it, we had looked at a bunch of other sign bylaws and kind of cobbled that together. We were following the format from another community that had, gone through the AG's process and had gotten approved. And obviously there's flaws with it. There's no question about that. And I don't care if we have to rewrite the whole thing, just, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
I would agree.
You were very thorough about everything.
Well, basically, we stole the information from somebody else. I'd like to tell you that I was able to create all that myself, but that'd be a lie. So we basically, acquired the information from some other communities, and that's where the language came from.
Okay.
I will second the vote to reorganize it because it is a little confusing. Some things are kind of addressed in several different places in the sign bylaw, and it'd be nice to kind of consolidate the organization. It doesn't mean changing the content. It just means making it a little easier for people to understand.
So
I'm all for that.
What I've done in my reorganization is I picked out everything that you wanted to ban, and I stuck it at the top and said, and under not allowed. And then I'm going to divide it into allowed in residential, allowed in commercial. And then I'm going to keep all of the specifics that you had for like that the sign has to be able to hold snow, this much snow or things like that. So I'm keeping all of the specifics, but I'm going to divide them into categories where people will be, how people will be looking at it.
Hey, Bill, if I may, this is Dave. I know you can't see me, but I think that one of the things with the sign bylaw that needs to be addressed is the setback requirements. One of the setback requirements for the sign is that the sign setback has to be equal to the building setback from the lot lines. If somebody's got a proposed business that's going to be 20 feet off the road to the building, which is what the zoning setbacks say, then the sign would have to be 20 feet off the road as well. I think that that's one of the most important things that we would have to look at with the sign bylaw is tweaking that so that people could put their sign closer to the road. It doesn't make any sense if they got to put it 20 feet off the road. No one would ever see it.
Oh, okay, well,
There is a provision in there that allows you to put it closer for businesses. But it's buried. And that's why a little bit of reorganization might make it a little bit easier to find things like that.
so here's one of my concerns, and please don't anybody take offense to this, but right now, again, we're talking about signs. We're kind of all over the place with what we want to do, when we want to do it, and what we're going to concentrate on. So however we do it, we need to get a little bit more structured in the conversation and what we're actually going to be dealing with. So again, and it's my fault because I tend to drift like everybody else does, but we just keep drifting in and out of these various things, and we never really get in to talk about a topic and try to get it sorted out and come up with some closure, and we go from there. So that's the general question I have to everybody. How do we organize this? How do we do it? Signs, is that the most important thing that we have from a bylaw perspective? I'm willing to say no, it's not, based on some of the other conversations, but again, I could be wrong about that as well. So that's the general question out there for folks. How do we want to do this?
Let's start with what you already have in front of you. So what if we do the hotel definitions first?
Well, I don't know that we're going to do any of that tonight, to be frank with you. I don't know if do we have all the things that we want to have on a potential list to change, modify, whatever for the annual town meeting. Are we there that say, okay, this is the list of things we're going to work on and we're going to move forward?
I thought part of that you spoke to last week, or the last meeting, with this Excel spreadsheet, you were going to, put the list together. Maybe it's 6 things, maybe it's 16. Then we're going to look at that and set up a matrix to the right. How much time do we think it's going to take, and do we have enough time? Walt already brought up the deadline of February. Mid-February, we got to have it together. But maybe we can look at that list, go to the right and say, is this a priority? Just what you said, Bill. Is this sign? And then we all vote on that and, give it a priority of 1 to 5. And then look at that list afterwards and say, okay, for what is it? There's 4 number ones. Is it physically possible between now and February to even get those things done? If it is, great. Then we go to the other ones that are priority 2 and 3 and 4. So I think if we all, we've got a bunch of emails, if we could get that spreadsheet, I think it would help us all to start looking at it, sort of benchmarks against that, what we have to talk about, and assign who's going to do that. Is an individual going to leave this meeting and go do signs? Why not have responsibility at, on the matrix to the right of the spreadsheet? So could we maybe, I think that's what you just said. Let's bring it all together. So tonight,
Yeah.
we just finish the list.
Yeah, I worked on this today. Again, it's from the notes that I took, and I'm sure there are things I may have missed, and I didn't want to send it out prior to the meeting because I didn't want to get anybody confused. But so what I think we should do is I'll just read you the things that I have on here right now.
Can you share your screen?
It's just, I got it printed out. It's,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's not a document. It's in my laptop. It's not in my iPad. So,
Okay.
so, and I guess the question would be, do we want to add on to this? And then tomorrow I can push this out to everybody and then get a look at it and add to it, change, whatever you think you need to do. So I had under section 5.1 under definitions, we wanted to address a definition of a story. We wanted to update zoning maps, and we wanted a definition update of a half story.
Can I add a
Yeah,
definition of frontage?
Say again?
Can I add a definition of frontage?
Sure.
I think that definition is missing.
Okay.
Bill, could I ask you a quick question about how the bylaw is going to be presented at the town meeting?
Dave, I have
Hello?
no idea. Yeah, you can ask that question, but I wouldn't know how to answer it for you right now. That's something that we'll have to sort through as a group.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple question. When we actually get this all figured out and we present it at the town meeting, is the bylaw change going to be one warrant article, or is each bylaw change going to be a separate warrant article?
Yeah, I don't know, Dave. My off the top, I think it probably makes sense to have them be individual, but then I could also argue the fact that you need to do them all as a group. But I don't know. If you do an all or nothing thing, if somebody gets hung up on one issue in there, you run the risk of not having any of them passed versus an a la carte approach where, maybe, if you have 6 make it through and people are hung up on one. But again, we'll talk about that and figure out what the best course of action for us is on that.
What if we put them in chunks? Like we have all the definitions together and then we say, if you have a problem with any of these definitions, we can pull that out and vote on that separately. And then anything that people have issues with can be pulled out of the whole and we can vote on it. Although I think some of the bigger ones like the sign will want to be by itself, and the accessory dwelling unit, depending on whether we choose the one that has little changes or the one that has big changes, might need to be by its own.
Yeah, well, so we'll that's a great question, Dave, and we'll have that on the list to figure out how we're going to do it. But I think right now it's too early to answer that.
Okay, my suggestion, Bill, and to the other board members as well, would be that we try to prioritize things, and see what we as a group feel is the most important changes we should make, and make a number one change. If this is the most important one we should do, and go for, as what you've said before in the past, the low-hanging fruit. What's going to be the most bang for the buck, and then go down the list. And if we get to the end of the list and there's a couple of things that are questionable, maybe we should table them until the next meeting and try to get some things that we think are the most important of all to get done at the springtime meeting, versus trying to get many things at once. Maybe 4 things that we could prioritize to say, this is really important. We need to get this done. And if there's something that's at the bottom of the list and we don't have time to do it, depending on how we're going to configure the warrant articles, figure out whether or not it's going to be each individual or whether or not it's going to be in one place. Maybe we should try to prioritize things as a group and a committee and see what we think is the most important thing and work from the top down.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we're going to do. That makes the most sense. So
Here's my top priority.
Rebecca, I just noticed right at the beginning of the meeting, there's a little word order issue. It should be repairs of appliances or other small items. I think that
okay.
should move up.
Rebecca, I want you to take that down, please.
Okay.
Because again, we're drifting and we can't drift. So let me make it through what I have on the spreadsheet. And then again, throw things out to me and I'll add them on here. So the next one I had was under section 4 dimensional regulations, 4.34 visual corner clearance. We wanted to add a reference drawing in the text. And then I had 4.37 fences and walls. We wanted to rewrite that section. 4.38 swimming pool fence, a possible deletion of that completely. And then I had section 5 under special regulations, 5.1 accessory buildings. You wanted to discuss setback from primary structure and no secondary without a primary. Then we had 5.2 signs. And then I can't remember if we talked about this, but I had notes on my thing about it, 5.3 off-street parking and loading requirements that they needed review and possible changes. And then just under other, because I wasn't sure where exactly they were, was the consolidate the special permit granting authority, possibly definition changes with frontage, hotel, motel, and campers. And then I also had a note on accessory dwelling units and possibly the new MBTA zoning.
Definition of story wasn't in what you just listed off, but it was earlier. So I'm
Yeah, it was well, again, I've got it. I've actually got definitions in 2 places.
okay.
So therein lies part of the problem is that organization issue that I have. So I will put those together before I send this out. But that's what I had, right, wrong, or indifferent. That's what I have. So what else needs to go on that list?
The first thing I'd say is I think the list generally captures everything we talked about at the last meeting, at least from my recollection. I think of the things you put down there, signage is, when I think of potentially more problematic, probably the signage is one where people will have stronger opinions about. And I can't remember, there was one like the third thing in there that you said that was, but most of them, I think definitions are going to be easy. I don't see that as, I'm continually surprised by some people in our town that get upset about little things, but personally, I can't imagine definitions would be something we couldn't get clarified and through. And even the accessory building one and stuff, in some of the dimensional requirements and stuff like that, that should be the easy stuff. And I would put the easy stuff high on the list, because I feel like, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, which is dangerous with me sometimes. I think that that we should make this as easy, this one at this town meeting, as easy and uncontroversial as possible. Because I think the big ones are going to be the next round, when we're really going through and looking at A&Rs and looking at all of the things that have created some controversy in the town before. That needs to be tied more to a master plan or a strategic initiative of the town, so that when we go back, not next year, a year from now, after we've completed our master plans and we have a more strategic initiative as to what we want to do, we'll be in a better place. You know, if we make the first one, we make these last 2 fairly easy changes that don't get much controversy, then I think when we get to we'll have an easier time when we get to the controversy, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect. Walt, it's exactly what I was thinking too, to try to get to prioritize the things in a list as what's the most important, and go down and just concentrate on the top 2 or 3 changes I think that we feel as though are going to be the most important to make and try to get those through first. I agree with you 100%.
Now, I didn't write down all of what you said, but could you go through the first 2 or 3 things you said quickly, Bill?
Sure. The first one was just under section 1.5, which were definitions.
Yep.
The definition of a story,
Yep.
a zoning map update, and a half-story definition update. And then Sarah had asked for frontage definitions. I actually had that lower down, but I wrote that in again. And then the next one was dimensional regulations, 4.34, the visual corner clearance, 4.37 fences and walls, 4.38 swimming pool fence, and then under 5 accessory dwellings, accessory buildings, signs, and then 5.3 off-street parking and loading requirements.
No.
Bill, I have, like, if I can interrupt for a second, I've got a whole bunch of information on the definitions of stories and from the Universal Building Code. Which is the Massachusetts State Building Code incorporated years ago. But I've got a whole bunch of documents. I made copies for everybody, but I can't send them to you over my phone. But at the last meeting we had, you had asked me to see if I couldn't do some research on that and find some definitions for stories. And I did a lot of research on it, and I found a lot of information, but it's
Good.
half of the documents I can't show you right now.
Hey,
No, that's
Bill,
fine.
Because I think
just-
my current definition of story wasn't a great one.
Can I say something? On that list of definitions, Bill, you just listed off, hotel and motel wasn't on there, and customary home occupation was another definition that we'd like to tweak so that we can cover the people working from computers doing sales.
I remember that, well, the hotel motels was down further on my definition, phase 2, and then also campers. But, I remember when I was going through my notes, I had written something down about occupations. I don't know why it didn't make the list, but I do have that.
Okay,
hey, Bill, I'm sorry, but I have to check
Sure.
out of the meeting.
Okay.
I wish everybody a good weekend and a nice long holiday weekend. Take care,
All right.
everyone.
Thanks, Walt.
I hope
Bob.
Rosemary gets better soon.
So Sarah, tell
yes.
me what the occupation thing was again, because I'd thrown my notes away.
Oh, Rebecca had actually tweaked it. It was a simple little tweak, but I just found a little word order problem with it. That's where she put her screen up. I would read it. It's virtually the same thing, except I would stick online sales after or other small items.
Yeah, no, I'm not so much worried about the content. I just want to call it the right thing. So customary home occupation. Okay.
Yeah, that definition.
Perfect. Okay. So does anybody have anything else that they want to put on the list?
Bill, the special permit granting authority thing, we had talked about that briefly at the last at our last meeting. I don't know whether or not that would make the top 3 or 4 as priorities, but I agree with what Walt was saying, that I think we should pick. We've got several different things we're talking about. I think that we should go for the low-hanging fruit and what we think is most important, and try to concentrate on 3, maybe 4 at the most zoning changes for the Springtown meeting. That's just my opinion, but.
Okay. Well, I've got consolidated special permit granting authority on the list. So that'll be one that we'll talk about.
The list. I think, that, I mean, it's, I'm talking on my phone to you guys. I have a much easier time when we're having a group meeting, but I understand that I would like to tell you, Bill, I appreciate the fact that you did want to do a Zoom meeting and not potentially exposing us to the COVID virus. Thank you very much for not asking us all to be in one small room with no ventilation in there. It's thank you for doing that.
No, you're welcome, Dave. So as it turned out, I tested again today and I'm now negative. So, but I didn't, again, out of an abundance of caution, I didn't think it was the right thing to do. So that, again, it's
I'm
nice.
now
that we have-
positive, so I'm grateful it was online. I've been working from home this week.
Yeah, Brian tried to accuse me of giving him COVID over the phone, but so anyway, so I appreciate that, Dave. So I've got Consolidated Special Permit Granting Authority down there. Anybody have anything else that they think they want us to put on there?
Given
Any-
given
Go
the
ahead.
awkwardness of this meeting, and now we've already lost a person, if we just kind of make sure everyone's kind of thrown out what they want, if you can email us that list before the next meeting, maybe we can all just prioritize it and we kind of call it quits pretty quickly on this meeting. Does that
That's
sound?
fine. No, I'm good with that because I'm actually right there with you because it's so I'll send this out to everybody tomorrow. And I know some of you aren't working tomorrow, but if I don't do it, I'll forget it. I'll clean it up a little bit and I'll only have one section on definitions. And by all means, don't be bashful about throwing things in there or adding to it's just a document. That's all it is. And then, so the way
I
our
would like a place to put documents so that you guys can start reviewing them and edit and putting edits on them.
I know you had started doing that and I think that's a great idea. I
Could
just
you
tell you that
see
I
what
suck.
did?
I suck at that, trying to get into Google Docs and do this and do that. But if that's the path of least resistance for everybody and that makes the most sense, then I'll figure it out.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. Like this, the format of this meeting, I'm not finding extremely productive from my end because I'm just on my phone. I can't see anybody. I can't show you all the documents that I've researched and produced. But I think that I agree with the general consensus. Given the format that we're at tonight, we should probably call this one a little bit short and see if we couldn't at our next meeting, see if we couldn't prioritize things and say, okay, we've got different changes we want to go through. What are the 3 most important ones that we can present at the Springtown meeting and try to concentrate on 3 or 4 zoning changes that we think we can get to pass.
Okay, that sounds good. I think everybody's in agreement with that. So based on our schedule, our next meeting we're looking at is Thursday, October 20th.
Okay.
And that would be, we do that at 6 p.m. and we'll do it in person unless something pops up. But let's plan on doing that. And if nobody's got anything else, then I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 6:45.
I have one thing.
Go ahead.
And Sarah has one thing. To your point, the list goes out and choose 1, 2, 3. 1 would think it's a priority, 2, okay, 3. Another column would be, I didn't bring these things up for the last year. Someone else did. What I don't know is it would be nice to know for the next meeting, if you brought this up, if you could write over to the right and go, is it change some language or is it to rewrite it so that, Bill, we know what the scope is and we can all go, there's not enough time to do that. So I don't think that's too hard to do. It's just, I don't want to start the meeting next, on the 20th to go, well, how much work is it? Well, I have to go look at it. If someone's mentioned it, and I think that it's, and Sarah, anybody wants to jump in, again, is it a rewrite or is it change some language? That way we can understand is there enough time to do this? That's
fair.
fair? And again,
Some minor changes of language and some of them are complete rewrites.
okay. And if we can see that over there, then we know what we're up against.
I was thinking of ranking them in terms of easy to pass and easy to do, which are 2 different things. Some things will be more work. Like if Rebecca wants to keep trying to reorganize signage and we decide not to do it in the spring, we'll still have that work done for the future.
Okay.
But we'll prioritize the ones that are not controversial and easy to do.
I think that could be done right at the meeting, Sarah.
Yep.
Easy to pass. And I agree with you. Easy to pass is not the same as it easy to do. So yeah, let's think next, just go around the table. That's not easy. That's not, and the other one as far as how much work. So I think that's something we can talk about, during the meeting. Okay, all right.
Okay.
And the thing that I had wanted to say was, Dave, I'm going to see you tomorrow. Could you please bring me a copy of your research? If you said you have copies, That way I can take a peek at it before the next meeting.
The copies of the story definitions and
Yes.
such. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Anybody else got anything? Okay, then I'll make a motion to adjourn at 6:47. Is there a
Can
second?
we have second it?
Okay, I'll call the roll. Bill Johnson, yes. Glenn Hathaway,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Walt is not here, but I know he would have voted yes. Dave Perry.
Yes.
All right, folks, thank you so much. It was a little bit confusing, but it was good we got together, and I will get this document out to you tomorrow, and I'll post a meeting for the 20th and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, have a great evening.
Okay.
You too.
Yeah,
See ya.
thank-